The massive space station floated in the darkness between stars. Its metal walls stretched for miles in every direction. Inside, thousands of alien beings gathered in the Great Council Chamber. Their voices mixed together in a symphony of clicks, growls, and strange musical sounds. Today was different. News had arrived from the outer edge of the galaxy. A new species had been found on a small blue planet. The planet was called Earth, and the creatures living there called themselves humans. Ambassador Keithavar stood slowly from his seat. He was old even by the standards of his long-lived species. His reptilian skin was covered in scars from battles fought centuries ago. The Vorthak Empire he represented had once controlled vast regions of space. Now they stayed on their homeworlds, rarely venturing out. The chamber grew quiet as Keithavar raised his clawed hand. His yellow eyes swept across the assembled delegates. Representatives from hundreds of worlds watched him with curiosity. Fellow council members, Keithavar began, his voice carrying the weight of years. I have studied the reports about these humans. I have seen their history, their wars, their nature. I must warn you all about something very important. A few delegates laughed. The Zephyrian representative, Admiral Xylos, spoke up from his floating platform. What could possibly worry the great Vorthak Empire? These humans barely have space travel. They fight with simple weapons on their single world. Keithavar's eyes narrowed. That is exactly why you should fear them. They are not like us. We calculate risks before we fight. We consider the costs of war. We seek peace when the odds are against us. Humans do not think this way. The chamber filled with murmurs. Some delegates seemed interested, but many appeared amused. The crystalline collective speaker chimed like breaking glass. You speak as if you have fought them before, but first contact was only made last month. I have not fought them directly, Keithavar admitted, but I have studied them for longer than you might think. My people have been watching Earth for many years. We learned something that you all need to understand. When you threaten a human, they do not simply defend themselves. They remember. They adapt. They hunt. Admiral Xylos floated closer to the center of the chamber. His blue skin seemed to glow with amusement. Hunt? One primitive species against the might of the galactic community? We represent thousands of civilized worlds. Our fleets number in the millions. What could they possibly do to us? The old Vorthak ambassador looked directly at Xylos. They will find a way. Humans do not surrender when faced with impossible odds. They become more dangerous. They learn from every attack. They never forget who hurt them. And most importantly, they never stop coming. The chamber erupted in laughter. Delegates from dozens of species chittered and roared their amusement. The insectoid hive queen clicked her mandibles dismissively. You speak of them as if they are some unstoppable force. They have not even developed proper energy weapons yet. Keithavar remained standing as the laughter continued around him. He had expected this reaction. His own people had laughed once too, long ago. Before they learned better. Listen to me carefully, he said, waiting for the noise to die down. I am not speaking from fear. I am speaking from wisdom. My empire once spanned a quarter of this galaxy. We had fleets that could destroy star systems. We thought ourselves invincible. The chamber grew quieter. Many knew the Vorthak history, but few knew why such a powerful empire had retreated to just a handful of worlds. We encountered a species much like humans once. They were primitive by our standards. We decided to teach them their place in the galaxy. We attacked their world. We killed millions of them in a single day. Keithavar's voice grew heavy with memory. We thought it was over. We were wrong. Admiral Xylos leaned forward. What happened? They followed us home. Not immediately. It took them years to develop the technology. But they never forgot. They studied our tactics. They learned our weaknesses. They adapted our own weapons against us. One by one, our colonies fell. Not to superior numbers, but to creatures who had learned to think like us while remaining true to their own nature. The gaseous consortium's representative spoke in a voice like wind through caves. Surely your mighty empire could handle one primitive species. That is what we thought. But humans are different. When most species face destruction, they negotiate. They adapt by changing their behavior. Humans adapt by changing everything else around them. They turn their enemies' strengths into weaknesses. They find allies in impossible places. They make weapons from anything they can find. Keithavar moved toward the center of the chamber, his old legs carrying him slowly but steadily. But the most dangerous thing about humans is their memory. We destroyed one of their cities. In response, they destroyed our entire civilization, not through conquest, through patience. They hunted down every ship that participated in their attack. They tracked every commander across the galaxy. They never stopped coming. The chamber was completely silent now. Even the ambient sounds of the station seemed muted. You think I am exaggerating? Kethavar continued. You think one species cannot threaten thousands. But I have seen what happens when humans decide someone needs to pay for their crimes. They do not simply fight. They wage total war against the very idea of you. Admiral Xylos spoke more quietly now. What are you suggesting we do? Leave them alone. Do not threaten them. Do not attack them. Do not try to conquer them. Approach them with respect. Trade with them if they are willing. Learn from them if they let you. But never ever give them a reason to hunt you. The Hive Queen's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. And if they threaten us? If they prove dangerous to galactic peace? Kethavar turned to look at her directly. Then pray to whatever gods you believe in. Because once humans decide you are their enemy, the only way the hunt ends is when one of you is completely destroyed. And humans are very, very hard to destroy completely. The chamber remained quiet for a long moment. Then Admiral Xylos spoke again, his voice carrying authority. The Council appreciates your warning, Ambassador Kethavar. However, we cannot allow a single primitive species to dictate terms to the entire galaxy. If these humans prove troublesome, we will deal with them appropriately. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Delegates nodded their various heads, clicked their approval, or hummed their support. Kethavar looked around the chamber one last time. He had done what he could. He had given them the warning his people had learned too late. Now it was up to them to decide whether wisdom would guide their actions. Then I will say this one final time, he said, his voice carrying to every corner of the massive chamber. Do not attack the humans. They will hunt you forever. The galaxy is vast, but it is not vast enough to hide from them once they decide you must pay. With those words, the old ambassador turned and walked slowly back to his seat. Around him, the council continued to debate and plan. They spoke of demonstration fleets and shows of strength. They discussed how to bring these new humans into line with galactic law and order. Kethavar listened to it all with growing sadness. History was about to repeat itself. The galaxy was about to learn the same hard lesson his people had learned centuries ago. He only hoped some would survive the education that was coming. As the council voted to authorize military action against Earth, Kethavar closed his eyes and remembered the last transmission his people had received from their greatest enemy, all those years ago. 4 simple words that had ended an empire. We remember everything always. Soon, the galaxy would understand what those words really meant. The strike fleet appeared in Earth's solar system like a steel storm. 100 warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. Each ship was larger than anything humans had ever built. Their weapons could turn mountains into glass. Admiral Xylos stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the small blue planet through the view screen. It looked so peaceful from space. White clouds swirled over green and brown continents. City lights sparkled on the night side of the world. Such a small thing to cause so much concern, he said to his second-in-command. The old reptile actually thought this world could threaten the galaxy. The tactical officer, a crystalline being whose body chimed softly as he moved, spoke up. Admiral, we are receiving multiple communication attempts from the planet. They appear to be surrender offers. Xylos laughed, a sound like flowing water. Already? We have not even begun the demonstration. Open a channel. The view screen flickered and showed a human face. The creature had pale skin and dark hair. It wore what appeared to be a military uniform covered in colorful ribbons. When it spoke, the translation system converted its words into galactic standard. This is General Harrison, representing the United Earth Defense Force. We know you have superior technology and numbers. We do not wish to fight. Please tell us what you want. Admiral Xylos smiled, showing rows of sharp blue teeth. What we want is simple, human. Your species will submit to Galactic Council authority. You will accept our guidance in all matters. You will provide resources and workers as requested. In return, we will allow you to continue existing. The human's face hardened. And if we refuse? Then your species dies today. We will sterilize this world and be gone before your sun sets. Choose quickly. General Harrison was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke again. We need time to discuss this with our governments. 24 hours. You have 1 hour. Xylos replied and cut the transmission. Exactly 1 hour later, the human appeared on screen again. This time, several other humans stood behind him. They all had the same grim expression. "Admiral, we have discussed your terms. Our answer is no. We will not become slaves. If you want to destroy us, then do it. But we will not surrender our freedom." Admiral Xylos stared at the screen in disbelief. "You understand what you are choosing? Death for your entire species. We understand perfectly. We also understand something you apparently do not. Some things are worth dying for." The transmission ended. Admiral Xylos turned to his tactical officer. "Begin the bombardment. Target major population centers first. Military installations second. I want this over quickly." The fleet opened fire. Energy beams lanced down from orbit, turning cities into craters. New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow. One by one, humanity's greatest cities became radioactive glass. Millions died in the first hour. Tens of millions in the second. But humans did not break as expected. Instead of panicking, they organized. Military leaders who had been enemies the day before shared intelligence and resources. Scientists worked together to analyze the alien technology. Citizens became soldiers overnight. The bombardment continued for 3 days. When it ended, human civilization lay in ruins. Nearly half the population was dead. The survivors lived in underground bunkers or scattered settlements far from the destroyed cities. Admiral Xylos opened communications again. The same human general appeared, but now he sat in what looked like a concrete bunker. His uniform was dirty and torn. Blood stained the side of his head. "Are you ready to surrender now?" Xylos asked. General Harrison looked directly into the camera. "Admiral, let me explain something to you. You think you have won because you killed millions of us, but you have made a terrible mistake. You have shown us exactly what kind of creatures you are. You have proven that coexistence is impossible. You have taught us that the only way to be safe is if you no longer exist." Xylos laughed again. Brave words from a broken species hiding in holes. "Not broken," Harrison said quietly. "Learning. We have been studying your ships. We have been analyzing your weapons. We have been preparing for what? You have no fleet. Your military is scattered. Your industry is destroyed." The human smiled, and something about that smile made Admiral Xylos uncomfortable. "Preparing to show you what happens when you hurt humans. You wanted to teach us our place in the galaxy. Consider the lesson received. Now we are going to teach you something in return. What could you possibly teach us? That humans remember everything, and we pay all debts in full." 2 hours later, proximity alarms screamed throughout the alien fleet. A single human ship approached from the direction of Earth. It was crude, obviously built from salvaged materials and stolen alien technology. It should have been no threat to the mighty warships. The ship transmitted a message on all frequencies. A young human woman appeared on screen. She wore a simple flight suit and had tears in her eyes. "My name is Sarah Chen. I was born in Beijing. Your bombs killed my family, my friends, everyone I ever loved. I want you to know their names." She began reading a list. Hundreds of names. Thousands. "These people died because you decided humans needed to learn their place. Now you are going to learn ours." The ship accelerated toward the alien flagship. Xylos ordered his weapons to destroy it, but the small craft was fast and maneuvering wildly. "Some shots missed? Others hit but did not stop it. What is it doing?" the tactical officer asked. Xylos realized the truth just before impact. "It is filled with explosives. All power to shields." The human ship struck the flagship's shield generators at full speed. The explosion was enormous. The shields collapsed and secondary explosions ripped through the massive alien vessel. Admiral Xylos watched in horror as his mighty warship began to break apart around him. As the bridge filled with smoke and sparks, he heard Sarah Chen's voice one last time over the communication system. "Tell the galaxy we are coming for all of you." The flagship died in fire and vacuum. Half the crew was lost, including Admiral Xylos. The remaining ships limped away from Earth carrying news of an impossible victory. A single human pilot in a makeshift ship had destroyed the most powerful vessel in the fleet. But that was only the beginning. In the weeks that followed, more attacks came. Human ships appeared throughout the solar system, built in secret underground facilities. They were not sophisticated, but they were effective. More importantly, they were crewed by humans who no longer cared if they lived or died. Each attack came with a message: names of the dead, locations of destroyed cities, and always the same promise: we are coming for all of you. The surviving alien commanders sent desperate reports back to the Galactic Council. The humans were not behaving like a defeated species. They were acting like creatures with nothing left to lose and everything to avenge. In hidden bunkers across Earth, human survivors worked day and night. They studied captured alien technology. They built new ships and weapons. They made lists of every alien species that had participated in the attack. They planned and prepared and remembered. The galaxy had wanted to teach humanity its place. Instead, humanity began to teach the galaxy about the most dangerous creature in the universe, a human with a grudge. The war had begun, but it would not be the war anyone expected. It would not be about territory or resources or political power. It would be about justice, human style, complete, total, and absolutely unforgiving. The aliens had made their choice. Now they would live with the consequences. Or more accurately, they would die with them. 5 years had passed since the attack on Earth. The Galactic Council had declared the human problem solved. Official reports stated that the primitive species had been successfully brought under control. Most of the galaxy believed the humans were either dead or properly subdued. Commander Vextai of the Zephyrian mining operation on Kepler 442b was reading those same reports when the alarms began screaming. He looked up from his data pad to see his communications officer frantically working at her station. "Report," he commanded, his blue skin shifting to a worried purple color. "Sir, we have unknown ships approaching the mining facility. They appear to be using stolen Zephyrian technology, but the design is unfamiliar." Vextai moved to the main view screen. 3 ships approached through the asteroid field that surrounded their mining operation. The vessels were sleek and dangerous looking, clearly built for war rather than mining or exploration. "Identification signals?" "None, sir." "They are not responding to our hails." The ships moved closer. Vextai could see they were smaller than his defensive platforms. But something about the way they moved made him nervous. They flew like predators stalking prey. "Power up defensive systems. Send a message to the approaching vessels. Tell them they are entering restricted space and must identify themselves immediately." Before his communications officer could respond, all 3 human ships opened fire at once. Their weapons were not the crude energy blasters the reports had described. These were sophisticated beam weapons that cut through the mining station's shields like they were made of paper. The attack was precise and devastating. The humans targeted the station's weapon systems first, then its communication array, then its escape pods. Within minutes, the mining operation was defenseless and unable to call for help. Vextai watched in horror as boarding pods launched from the human ships. "How is this possible?" The report said they were primitive. One of his officers, a veteran of many campaigns, spoke grimly. "Sir, these ships, they are using our own technology against us, but it has been improved, modified. Those weapons are more powerful than standard Zephyrian designs." The boarding pods attached to the station's hull with magnetic clamps. Cutting tools began burning through the metal walls. Vextai ordered his security forces to the breach points, but he knew it was hopeless. His mining operation was protected against pirates and raiders, not military assault. The humans cut through the hull in minutes. Security cameras showed them moving through the station corridors in coordinated teams. They wore advanced combat armor and carried weapons that seemed to combine technology from several different species. But what disturbed Vextai most was how they moved. These were not desperate refugees or primitive warriors. These were trained soldiers who knew exactly what they were doing. The human forces reached the command center within an hour. They did not break down the doors or blast their way in. Instead, they used sophisticated hacking tools to override the electronic locks. The door simply opened and 3 humans walked inside. The leader removed his helmet, revealing a scarred human face with cold, determined eyes. He looked directly at Vextai and spoke in perfect galactic standard. "Commander Vextai of the 3rd Zephyrian Mining Fleet. You participated in the bombardment of Earth 5 years ago. Your ship, the Prophet's Edge, fired 17 shots at the city of Mumbai. You killed 43,000 humans in those attacks." Vextai stared at the human in disbelief. "How could you possibly know that? Those records are classified." The human smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "We know many things, Commander. We know the name of every ship that attacked our world. We know every officer who gave orders to fire. We know every politician who voted for the attack. We know where they live, where they work, and where they think they can hide. What do you want? Money? Resources? We can negotiate?" We want justice, but since the galaxy seems to have forgotten what that word means, we will settle for revenge. The human gestured to his companions. They immediately began setting explosive charges around the command center. Other human soldiers could be heard throughout the station doing the same thing. You are going to kill us all? Vextai asked. Yes, but first you are going to record a message. You are going to explain to your people exactly why this is happening. You are going to tell them that this is payment for Mumbai, and you are going to warn them that we are not finished. Vextai found himself forced to sit in front of a recording device. With a human weapon pointed at his head, he spoke the words they demanded. He explained how humans had found their mining operation. He admitted to participating in the attack on Earth, and he delivered their warning to the galaxy. When the recording was finished, the humans prepared to leave. Vextai called out desperately, "Wait, what about mercy? What about forgiveness? Surely your species believes in second chances." The human leader stopped and turned back. "Commander, did you show mercy when you bombed Mumbai? Did you offer second chances to the children in those schools you destroyed? Did you forgive the humans who begged you to stop?" Vextai had no answer. "We learned from you. We learned that mercy is weakness. We learned that forgiveness is foolishness. We learned that the only language the galaxy understands is violence. Thank you for that education. We will put it to good use." The humans left the station and returned to their ships. 15 minutes later, the mining operation exploded in a brilliant flash of light. Every alien aboard died instantly. The only thing that survived was the recorded message, automatically transmitted to Zephyrian Command. Similar attacks happened across the galaxy over the following months. Human strike teams appeared at mining colonies, trading posts, and military bases. They always targeted locations connected to the original attack on Earth. They always left messages explaining exactly why the attacks were happening. The patterns became clear to anyone paying attention. The humans were not raiding randomly. They were working from a list. A very long, very detailed list of everyone who had wronged them. More disturbing was how quickly human technology was improving. Their ships became faster and more powerful with each attack. Their weapons grew more sophisticated. Their tactics became more refined. They were learning from every encounter, adapting and evolving at an incredible pace. The Galactic Council tried to organize a response, but the humans were always one step ahead. They struck at unexpected targets, used intelligence that should have been impossible to obtain, and disappeared before reinforcements could arrive. Ambassador Kethvar watched the reports with grim satisfaction. He had warned them. He had told them exactly what would happen. Now the galaxy was beginning to understand what his people had learned centuries ago. Humans were not just another species. They were something else entirely. A transmission arrived at his home world from an unknown source. When he played it, he saw a human face, older now, marked by years of war and loss. Ambassador Kethvar of the Vorthak Empire. "I am General Harrison of the Terran Liberation Fleet. We know you warned the Council about us. We know you tried to prevent this war. For that reason, your people will not be harmed. But we want you to deliver a message to those who ignored your warning." The human leaned closer to the camera. "Tell them the hunt has only just begun. We have identified 732 species that participated in the attack on Earth. We have compiled a list of every ship, every crew member, every supply depot that supported the operation. The galaxy thinks this war will end when we get tired or run out of resources. They are wrong. This war will end when everyone responsible for the deaths on Earth is dead, not before." The transmission ended. Kethvar sat in silence for a long time, thinking about the implications. 732 species, millions of individuals. The humans were planning to hunt them all. And based on what they had accomplished in just 5 years, they might actually succeed. The galaxy was about to learn a lesson that would be remembered for 1,000 years. Never attack someone who remembers everything and forgives nothing. 20 years had passed since the first human ships appeared in alien space. The galaxy was no longer the same place it had been before the attack on Earth. Trade routes that had operated for thousands of years now lay abandoned. Entire sectors had become no-go zones where merchant ships disappeared without a trace. President Xylahan of the Crystalline Collective stood before the emergency session of the Galactic Council. The meeting was being held on the 4th space station in 2 years. The previous 3 had suffered mysterious accidents that killed everyone aboard. "Fellow delegates," she began, her crystalline body chiming with stress harmonics, We can no longer pretend this is a regional conflict. The human threat has become a galactic crisis. The assembled representatives looked tired and afraid. Many species that had once been proud galactic powers now controlled only a handful of worlds. The mighty Zephyrian hegemony was down to their home system and 2 colonies. The insectoid hive had lost 60% of their territory. Admiral Xylos, the same Xylos who had once laughed at Kethvar's warnings, floated in a medical support chair. His species' natural blue coloring had faded to a sickly gray. Half his fleet command had been eliminated in what humans called accountability operations. They are not fighting a war, he said weakly. They are conducting an extermination. Every species that voted for the Earth attack is being systematically destroyed. Not conquered, destroyed. The gaseous consortium's representative spoke in a voice like a dying wind. Our entire government structure has collapsed. Human operatives infiltrated our leadership centers and eliminated every individual who supported the original decision. They spent 15 years placing sleeper agents throughout our society. 15 years of preparation for a single day of revenge. President Xylohan accessed her data files with a thought. The intelligence reports are terrifying. Human technology now exceeds our own in most areas. They have reverse-engineered and improved upon systems from dozens of species. Their ships are faster than ours. Their weapons are more powerful. Their soldiers are better trained. But worse than their technology is their organization, added the representative from the Amphibious Confederation. They have created a network of intelligence operatives across the entire galaxy. They know things about us that we do not know about ourselves. They have access to classified information from every major government. Admiral Xylos coughed, his breathing apparatus struggling to keep him alive. Last month, they attacked the secret research facility on Kepler 1649c. That facility did not officially exist. The location was known to only 12 individuals in our entire government. Yet somehow humans found it and destroyed it completely. They left behind a message listing the names of everyone who had ever worked there. The chamber fell silent except for the ambient sounds of the space station. Every delegate was thinking the same thing. If humans could find secret facilities that did not officially exist, nowhere was safe. How many of our people have they killed? Asked the Hive Queen, her mandibles clicking nervously. President Xylohan consulted her files again. Conservative estimates suggest they have eliminated approximately 400 million individuals across all affected species. But they are not killing randomly. Every death is connected to the original attack on Earth. They have somehow identified every person who participated, supported, or benefited from that operation. It is impossible, whispered the Mollusk Empire's ambassador. The records from that time period are classified at the highest levels. Many were destroyed after the operation ended.
How could they possibly know who was involved?
The answer came from an unexpected source. Ambassador Kethvar had been silent throughout the meeting, but now the ancient Vorthak slowly stood. They know because they never stop learning. Every ship they capture gives them access to new databases. Every prisoner they take provides more information. Every computer system they hack reveals more secrets. They have been building their knowledge for 20 years, piece by piece, name by name. The old reptilian looked around the chamber with sad eyes. I tried to warn you about this. I told you that humans remember everything. What I did not tell you is how they remember. They do not simply keep records in computers. They make remembering a sacred duty. Every human child learns the names of those who died on Earth. Every human soldier carries a list of those responsible. They have turned memory itself into a weapon. Admiral Xylos struggled to speak. There must be some way to negotiate with them. Some way to end this madness. Kethvar shook his head slowly. My people tried negotiation 23 years ago, when we first encountered a species like humans. We offered reparations. We offered to rebuild what we had destroyed. We offered to surrender our entire fleet. Their response was simple. Justice cannot be purchased. Then what do they want? Demanded President Xylohan. They want you to face the consequences of your actions. Every species that voted to attack Earth will be held accountable. Every individual who pulled a trigger, gave an order, or provided support will be found and punished. This will continue until their list is complete. The Hive Queen's voice was barely a whisper. How long is their list? Kethvar accessed his own intelligence files. According to our estimates, they are hunting approximately 50 million individuals across 732 species. So far, they have found and eliminated roughly 8% of their targets. The mathematics were terrifying. At their current rate of progress, the humans would be hunting their enemies for centuries. Entire civilizations would be dismantled piece by piece. Governments would fall. Trade networks would collapse. The galaxy itself might never recover. Surely they cannot maintain this level of operation indefinitely, suggested the crystalline representative. They must be suffering casualties. Their resources must be running low. Kethavar pulled up a holographic display showing human territorial expansion. Actually, their capabilities are growing. They now control 17 star systems. All former colonies of species they have eliminated. Their population has recovered to pre-war levels. They are building new ships faster than we can destroy them. The display showed human fleets patrolling what had once been alien space. Manufacturing centers produced weapons and ships around the clock. Research facilities developed new technologies at an incredible pace. They have turned warfare into a science, Kethavar continued. Every battle teaches them something new. Every captured ship improves their designs. Every interrogated prisoner gives them more targets. They are becoming more dangerous with each passing year. Admiral Xylos looked at the display with growing horror. They are not just hunting individuals. They are destroying entire civilizations. My homeworld has been evacuated 3 times in the past 5 years. We can no longer maintain a stable government because human agents eliminate our leaders faster than we can replace them. President Xylahan stood silent for a moment, processing the implications. When she spoke again, her voice carried a note of despair. Are you saying there is no hope? That we are all doomed to extinction? Kethavar looked at her with something that might have been pity. I am saying that you created an enemy that cannot be reasoned with, cannot be bribed, and will not forgive. You taught them that the strong prey upon the weak. Now they have become the strongest predators in the galaxy. The emergency session continued for hours, but no solutions were found. The delegates discussed evacuation plans, defensive strategies, and desperate alliance proposals. None of them addressed the fundamental problem. They had awakened something that would not rest until justice was served. As the meeting ended, Kethavar received a priority transmission on his personal communicator. The message was simple. Thank you for trying to save them. It is appreciated even though it failed. General Harrison, Terran Liberation Command. The old ambassador looked around the nearly empty chamber one last time. History was repeating itself just as he had feared. But this time the consequences would be far worse than what had happened to his own people. The humans were not just seeking revenge against those who had wronged them. They were rewriting the fundamental rules of galactic civilization. The age of peaceful coexistence was ending. The age of human justice had begun, and there was nothing anyone could do to stop it. 50 years had passed since Admiral Xylos first laughed at the idea of humans being a threat. Now, as his life support systems finally gave out, he could see human ships through the medical facility's viewport. They moved through what had once been Zephyrian space like lords of the galaxy, which in many ways they had become. The Terran ship Remembrance hung in orbit above the last Zephyrian stronghold. On its bridge, Captain Sarah Chen, granddaughter of the pilot who had destroyed Xylos's flagship, reviewed the final entries in humanity's great ledger of justice. Status report, she requested, her voice calm and professional. Commander Torres, her second-in-command, consulted his display. Ma'am, we have confirmed the elimination of 47,892,156 targets from the original list. Remaining targets number approximately 2 million, scattered across 43 species. Captain Chen nodded. The numbers had become routine after decades of this work, but she never let herself forget what they represented. Each number was a life taken in payment for the deaths on Earth. Each elimination brought humanity one step closer to the justice they had promised their dead. Any communications from the planet? She asked. Yes, ma'am. The Zephyrian Council has transmitted another surrender offer. They promise complete cooperation, reparations, and permanent exile from this sector. Chen looked at the blue world below them. Once it had been the proud capital of an empire that spanned dozens of star systems. Now it was the last refuge of a dying civilization, home to perhaps 50 million Zephyrians who had nowhere else to run. Display the surrender message, she ordered. The main screen showed an aged Zephyrian male, his blue skin faded to almost gray. He wore simple robes instead of the elaborate uniforms that had once marked his people's nobility. To the human forces in orbit. The alien began, his voice shaking with exhaustion. I am Chancellor Korveth, last elected leader of the Zephyrian people. We acknowledge our species' crimes against humanity. We accept full responsibility for our participation in the attack on your homeworld 50 years ago. We offer complete surrender, immediate reparations, and permanent withdrawal from galactic affairs. Please, show mercy to the civilians who had no part in those ancient decisions. Captain Chen studied the transmission for a moment, then turned to her communications officer. Open a channel to the planet. The view screen flickered and Chancellor Korveth appeared live, sitting in what looked like a simple government office. Behind him, Chen could see other Zephyrians working frantically at computer terminals. Chancellor Korveth, she began, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had never known defeat. I am Captain Sarah Chen of the Terran Retribution Fleet. We have received your surrender offer. The alien leader leaned forward desperately. Captain, our people have paid a terrible price for the mistakes of our ancestors. 37 of our worlds have been destroyed. Our government has fallen. Our empire is gone. Surely this is enough punishment for one species. Chen touched a control on her chair, and a holographic display appeared between her and the camera. It showed images from Earth 50 years ago. Burning cities, destroyed hospitals, mass graves filled with human victims. Chancellor, do you see these images? Yes, he whispered. These are from Mumbai, the city your predecessor targeted during the bombardment. 43,000 humans died in that attack alone. Men, women, children. Families were burned alive in their homes. Schools were vaporized with children still inside. Hospitals full of sick and injured were turned to ash. The Zephyrian leader's skin grew even paler. Captain, I was not even born when those attacks occurred. Most of our current population had no involvement in those decisions. Chen leaned forward, her expression never changing. Chancellor, are you familiar with human history? Some of it, yes. Then you know that humans have a saying, the sins of the fathers are visited upon the sons. Your people chose to make war on civilians. You chose to target the innocent. You chose to teach the galaxy that might makes right. We learned that lesson very well. The holographic display changed, showing the current state of what had once been the Zephyrian Empire. Empty worlds. Destroyed fleets. Collapsed colonies. The systematic elimination of a civilization. This is what happens when you attack humans, Chen continued. Not just military defeat. Not just political subjugation. Complete and total consequences. Your empire chose to kill our children, so we eliminated your empire. Your leaders chose mass murder, so we hunted down your leaders. Your species chose terrorism, so we became your worst nightmare. Chancellor Korveth was crying now, tears streaming down his alien face. What do you want from us? We have nothing left to give. Chen touched another control. The display now showed a list of names, Zephyrian names, with detailed biographical information beside each one. We want the 137 individuals on this list. They are the last surviving members of your species who participated in the Earth attack. Some were soldiers, some were politicians, some were merely bureaucrats who processed the paperwork. All of them share responsibility for the deaths of human civilians. The Chancellor looked at the list in horror. Some of these people are over 100 years old. They are dying of natural causes already. Justice does not recognize age limits, Chancellor. A crime is a crime, whether it was committed yesterday or 50 years ago. These individuals will be held accountable for their actions. And if we refuse to surrender them, Captain Chen's expression remained perfectly calm, then we will take them anyway, along with everyone who tries to protect them. Your choice is simple. Give us the guilty or become guilty yourselves. The transmission ended, leaving Chancellor Korveth alone with an impossible decision. 6 hours later, transport ships began leaving the planet's surface, carrying the last of the war criminals humanity had been hunting for half a century. As the prisoners were brought aboard the Remembrance, Captain Chen walked through the detention areas. These aliens looked nothing like the proud warriors who had once bombarded Earth. They were old, sick and broken by decades of running and hiding. One of them, a former fleet commander named Veltok, looked up as she passed his cell. Human, he called out weakly. Was it worth it? 50 years of war, millions of deaths on all sides, entire civilizations destroyed. Was your revenge worth all that suffering? Captain Chen stopped and looked at him through the force field. Commander, do you remember the message your species sent to Earth after the bombardment? You told us that resistance was futile, that we should accept our place in the galaxy, that you would hunt down any survivors who dared to fight back. The old Zephyrian nodded slowly. Well, Chen continued, we accepted your place in the galaxy, dead, and we kept our promise about hunting down survivors. The only difference is that we were better at it than you were. She began to walk away, then paused and looked back. But to answer your question directly, every human child who grows up free because your empire no longer exists makes it worth it. Every world that will never face bombardment because potential aggressors know what happens to those who attack civilians makes it worth it. Every species that will choose negotiation over violence because they have seen what human justice looks like makes it worth it. Commander Veltok slumped back against the wall of his cell. You have become monsters. No, Captain Chen replied quietly. We became what the galaxy taught us to become. You wanted to show us that might makes right. Mission accomplished. We are now the mightiest species in known space, and we are very, very right to be angry about what you did to our world. As the Remembrance prepared to leave Zephyrian space forever, Captain Chen stood on the bridge looking at the final reports. The last of the war criminals had been processed. The last of the complicit governments had been dissolved. The last of the participating species had been held accountable. Ambassador Kethvar's image appeared on the communication screen. The ancient Vorthak looked even older now, but there was something like relief in his expression. Captain Chen, he said formally, I wanted to inform you that the Galactic Council has voted to officially recognize human sovereignty over all former territories of the prosecuted species. Your people are now the dominant power in this region of space. Chen nodded. Thank you for the information, Ambassador. Will there be any challenges to this decision? Kethvar's expression might have been a smile. Captain, after 50 years of watching human justice at work, I doubt any species will challenge anything your people decide to do. You have taught the galaxy a lesson that will not be forgotten for 1,000 years. And what lesson is that? That some species remember everything, forgive nothing, and will hunt their enemies to the end of time itself. The galaxy thought it was teaching primitive humans about power. Instead, humans taught the galaxy about consequences. The transmission ended. Captain Chen looked out at the stars, thinking about the long journey that had brought humanity to this point. 50 years ago, they had been victims. Today, they were the supreme power in their region of space, respected and feared in equal measure. The price of ignoring wisdom had been paid in full. The galaxy would remember the cost for generations to come. Thank you for watching and comment for next part.